It's time. I've watched the final 2 episodes of the One Piece live action. I loved them, and I'm excited to talk to you about them. Mostly praise. I got my nitpicks. First of all, a load of people commented on my last live action video saying how much you loved the Kuro episodes, and I'm thrilled at that. They didn't work for me, but I want this live action to be a success, so if the majority people are loving those episodes, I think that's awesome. One of the things that I think that these episodes really thrived at were getting the Zoro-Sanji dynamic in their own way. I love the constant bickering. I love the constant name calling. Right off the bat, we've got Sanji calling Zoro Moss Head, and we've got Zoro not being able to drop, calling him the waiter. I love it. I say it in every one of these reviews, but naturally they're going to have to make changes in order to make this work in a different format. One of those changes is that they've changed the dynamic of the fishmen a lot to where they're more aggressive. Like for instance, Hachi, who in the manga is oftentimes comedic. He's strong and he's aggressive, but he also he brings a lot of gags. And in this, Hachi is all but cut. And what we do see of him, he's being an aggressor and nothing else. So the main fishmen that we focus on are Arlong, Chu, and Kurobabi. I'm not sure I'm saying his name right. So those are the 3 ones that we really get a lot of interaction with. And in previous discussions, in previous episodes, I've had a real hard time with the fishmen because especially Kurobabi, I thought looked terrible. The more time I spend with them though, I get used to them. I still don't think they look perfect, but I am used to them now to where to the point that at the end of these 2 episodes, I actually really liked the way Chu looked. And I've always liked the way Arlong looks in all of his prosthetics. It's just his body. I wanted to be a little bit bigger scale. But that's really good for me to keep in mind because my natural human brain will look at something like a fishman in live action and go, no, I don't like that. But give it some time. This is an absurdist world. This is going to take things that are not real and put them in a real setting like live action. Like it's obviously easier to accept in a manga, but in a live action, my brain just goes, I object. But that's good for me to keep in my pocket for later on. There will be many things that my brain will immediately say, I object, and I'm gonna have to just get used to it and allow it to grow on me. Some things that I really liked, I love showing Nami with her maps, showing her working with them, her love for them, and what her dynamic looked like with Arlong, the flashbacks of seeing her chained to her map making desk and to get a little glimpse of what it must have been like for her to be raised in this environment, thought was a brilliant addition. I really like the way they handled the initial flashback with Nami and Belmare and Nojiko. I thought they would dial back Belmare's flaws. You know, she's an ex-Marine who found these kids and she's now raising them with nothing. I mean, she's missing meals herself so that she can feed these kids. She's sacrificing a lot to raise these kids, and she picked them up at a point in her life where she was not prepared for this responsibility, but she's taken on the best she can. But she has, she's not perfect. We watch her slap Nami, we watch her yell at them, we watch her tell them, then leave. We'll tell Nami, then leave. If you're unhappy, go away. Like, rough around the edges. I thought they'd dial that back because that's not palatable, but I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that they allowed her to be someone who it doesn't know what she's doing with this whole mom thing, but she really is giving her kids her all. That said, while we're talking about flashbacks, I'll go ahead and mention I try really hard not to be too much of a manga nerd while I watch the live action, where it's like, okay, I'm thrilled that one of my favorite series of all time is being adapted and I get to talk about this series in a whole new way. I think that's awesome. But I don't want to be mad at this for not being exactly like the manga. That said, it is unfortunate that Belmare was robbed of her best panel. When Arlong enters her home and she greets him with the gun, she wraps her leg around him, brings him down, and shoves the barrel of the gun in his mouth. That was replaced with her just approaching him slightly with a gun, him knocking it up, and then it's out. It's over. We're done now. That's so unfortunate. In this, Genzo is also cut from the conflict of the girls needing to run away in order to save Belmare, and Belmare choosing to say, no, I have 2 girls. And I think that the way they did it was functionally perfectly fine. He saw the 3 plates, even though Nami says, you could have lied. She obviously, I mean, she could have lied, sure. But then Arlong would have just said, liar, search the house. They would have found the girls and then all of them would have died. Instead, she sacrificed herself to be the one to die. And Genzo got his scars just from the initial attack from the fishermen when they took over the town. I'm gonna circle back to this because I have a lot of opinions specifically around Genzo, but I'll come back to that whenever we get to it. I will say though that being that annoying manga fan, Belmare's declaration of I will never deny my kids and her sacrifice because she didn't want them to have to go out to sea to die, essentially. Like they weren't gonna survive on their own out to sea. And her saying, no, I'm gonna die so that they can stay because otherwise they would die at sea and I'm not gonna have that. And so she declares, those are my kids. I won't deny that those are my kids. And it was right after their confrontation. It was right after her fight with Nami. So tensions were really high. Like, yeah, it hit so much better in the manga. It was still fine. It was still fine here. I just, you know. The scene where Luffy and crew show up in Cocoa Village and see the damage of it and they're just kind of shocked at what happened to this town. And then Nami shows up to collect and she's having to put on her tough girl face because in this version, Cocoa Village doesn't know that Nami is what she's doing for them. And Luffy sees her collect and he sees her behaviors right now. And when they have a confrontation and he just quietly and gently asks, do you need my help? And she tells him essentially, go away. Like, I don't want you here, go away. I left you. I think they handled that scene so well between Nami and Luffy. I love the gentleness of Luffy as he's offering himself, offering his help to her and her just like how much it affects her to have to turn him down and all that. I think that they handled that brilliantly. I also like the bickering that comes with that, with Zoro saying, seems pretty obvious that she doesn't want us here, and Sanji objects and he's like, you can't trust a woman's lies or something, a very Sanji line. I think I wrote it down actually. Oh, the line was, you don't know women, they never say what they mean. And then so quickly Zoro says, tell me again why the cook gets to have a say. I love their back and forth. Oh, I also really love when Luffy calls out to Genzo and says, hey, Scar Guy, because he's Luffy. And then he introduces himself as, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, I'm a pirate. And without missing a beat, without a second to breathe, Zoro's like, Hunter, it's like he knows. It's like he understands his captain already, and he knows that he has to be on guard to correct his captain who cannot figure out when to not be honest. I also really like when the crew first meets Nojiko and Sanji immediately turns on his charm and she perks up whenever she finds out that he's a cook. She's like, oh, you're a cook? And Zoro's like, he's a waiter. It's like, he is a cook and Zoro knows it, but he will not miss a chance to knock him down. I also really liked when Nojiko told them a little bit about their background and it affected Luffy a lot. And Zoro goes to talk to him and he's still not perfect at it, but it actually goes well this time. And I like that full circle from last time when it just was like, nope, don't want to talk about it. Okay, cool, good talk. And this time they actually get to have that talk. It shows their crew dynamic building and growing. I am shocked that they kept the mouse get up, or that they didn't tone it down. I mean, the series is wacky in a lot of ways, but even this is weird to me, and it shocked me that they leaned into it so hard. Like, they gave him big ears. Like, Garp's dog hood, which objectively could have looked really cool, they made into this dinky little thing. But he gets giant ears? They adjusted the dynamic between Arlong and this Marine, whose name I've forgotten somewhat. But what I really like that they did is that they brought the tension between fishmen and humans to the forefront this early on. They're mentioning slavery. They're mentioning what the past is, the history between humans and fishmen. And it's not unpacked, but it's very overtly stated here. And then you also get to see some of that tension when the Marine wants more money, more penance, more of a cut from Arlong, and he submits, which would never, but that's okay. He submits and he gives him more of a cut, and then he makes an off-the-cuff comment about you're easier to work with than people would expect, or than your other people like you, or something like that. And well, I mean, you're smarter than people give you credit for. I don't know why I don't look at my notes more. You're smarter than people give you credit for, and Arlong is like, what was that? Maybe I don't need to play nice, and very quickly turns the tables and repeats that line back to him. You're smarter than people give you credit for, and takes that money back. In fact, takes more than what was supposed to be allotted. I loved that. Nami keeping the treasure that she's been collecting, which in this version she has the full treasure already collected at this point, which is fine. Nami keeping that treasure in her mom's grave was something that I was like, just because I feel like turning the earth that often to have to re-dig that grave every time she collects more money and has to deposit more in the grave. I feel like turning that earth over and over again, somebody would notice that something was happening at this grave. Like, does Nojiko never go visit her mom's grave? I mean, maybe she doesn't, but I feel like somebody would notice that that earth keeps getting turned. That's not really a nitpick, that's just an observation that I was like, what are we doing? But this is where we find out that Nami has devoted her life to trying to buy back Cocoa Village for the people and to earn their freedom back. She has agreed to enslavement, just a different kind, in order to buy their freedom back. And we also learned that all of Cocoa Village has been completely ignorant of this and that they have hated Nami completely. Now this change I don't like, and it's not because I don't think it works, it's because I think that it's another symptom of a larger thing that as a manga nerd isn't quite working for me. Again, this story has to be condensed and streamlined in some ways in order to make it work in this formatting, and even more so in order to make it work in 8 episodes. I recognize that and I try to be forgiving about it. However, one of the consequences to their very limited screen time that they've been allotted, it's not their fault they have 8 episodes, is that the world feels very small. One of the biggest charming factors of One Piece is how vast the world is and how detailed the characters' stories are. The lives and individual stories of the common man in the islands that we visit are a huge part of the heart of One Piece. The person that we'll maybe never see again or not see again for hundreds and hundreds of chapters, someone who lives here on this island that we get to interact with and then we leave them, and how fleshed out and whole their story is, how meaningful their life is in this world, is a big part of what makes One Piece so great, because each island doesn't feel like the next destination for the Straw Hats, but rather a fully fleshed out, fully living and breathing island full of lives that matter and that happened before we visited here and will continue to move after we leave. The care and attention that Oda puts into a character like Genzo, who was trying to save the girls and Belmare, who was trying to defend Belmare when Arlong came in, or rather trying to help her cover up the 3-plate issue, who received those scars in that moment because he stood up and stood next to Belmare, and who knew, along with the rest of the village, the entire time what Nami was doing, but they played along because they didn't want her to feel like she was trapped in this decision she made. If she wanted to bail at any point and leave them and go find her own freedom, they wanted her to have that choice. And when Nami comes running back to the village after she loses everything and tells them, it's okay, just give me a little bit more time. I'll get it all back. I will earn your freedom. And he just holds her and tells her, you must be so tired. Let us fight for you for a change. I understand having to condense down these roles and just have to kind of streamline it to just a few characters. I think practically it makes sense and I don't begrudge the series for it. But these restrictions that the show has to work within are unfortunate because those individual stories of the common man that we will never see again are so much of the lifeblood of this series. So this isn't me complaining that the series has restrictions that they have to function within. The showrunners can't fix that. There's nothing they can do about that. It's just me giving observations as someone who really loves this series and who, it's unfortunate that the world can't be as well realized or even close to as well realized as, we know it to be. That said, some changes that they put into this scene that were phenomenal. First of all, I love that Nami was the one that realized when they showed up, Mouse Ears guy showed up and was like, give me your 100,000 berries. That's clearly stolen. Give it to me. It belongs to me now. And Nami realizes how did you know the exact number? She knows that it was Arlong. I'm pretty sure Genzo is the one that put it together in the manga, or at least the one that questioned it and then Nami put it together. I liked that moment for her, but even more so, the scene where she resists and they throw her on the ground and hold her down while she screams, while they take the treasure, while they steal back what she has collected to buy their freedom. These people that should be stopping Arlong from stealing their freedom, she's now worked for 10 years to get that berry in order to buy that freedom back, and they take it from her under Arlong's command. The pain that she illustrated in her screams, that was displayed in that scene, sorry about my throat, was top notch. I have cried 3 times while watching through the live action. The first was Sanji's goodbye. The second was this scene here that was added. It was phenomenal, top tier, one of the best scenes in the series for me. I think I said this in my last video too, but Emily was the actress that I was the most concerned about in the trailers, because the scenes that they showed for her were very one note and monotone, and I was just like, oh no, she's not giving Nami a range of emotions. And I'm so happy that I was proven wrong, because her acting has brought so much. Like, that scene was Emily, and it was brilliant. And the third time I cried while oh, by the way, my husband, Corey, who this is his first time experiencing One Piece at all. He's never had any interest in the show or in the manga. He listens to my crazed ramblings, but they're all out of context nonsense. So he just really went into this story not knowing what to expect. That scene also made him cry. And the third scene that made me cry was with Nami stabbing the tattoo on her arm and asking for help. Made him cry too. Her performance here was brilliant. The scene was devastating, exactly as it should be. I was really worried about this scene not landing, and I think it did. I also really love the change they made when she turns to him and asks for help, and he says, "Of course I will." In the manga, he says, "Okay," and I think that that works fine, but I knew that it wouldn't work in live action, and his very quiet, solemn, "Of course I will," reflects back to his very quiet, solemn, "Nami, do you need help?" And then she finally asks for help, and he, in the same tone, in the same way, tells her, "Of course I will." It was beautiful. It was brilliant. It was actually Yaki's line. It was his delivery of course I will, that started the waterworks up again for me in this particular scene. An observation, I guess I'll say it, because I don't even think it's a nitpick, just a footnote, a little footnote about this scene, is that I do feel that they leaned a little bit too far into the manga or anime, in that he said, "Of course I will. Of course I will. Of course I will." I really would have preferred if they skipped the escalation and just let that first "of course I will" breathe a little bit longer, and then he turns to the crew and says, "Let's go." I think that that would have landed much harder for me in particular, but I'm just really happy that even though they went with the "of course I will," at least they didn't go with "okay," which would have been really cheesy in live action. And then this whole section, this whole rest of this section, I absolutely loved. When the crew shows up on Arlong Park and Luffy says, "Where's Arlong?" Probably in the map room. And so they run, and then the other 3 start to fight. Now, I know that there's a lot of nitpicking that can be done about the fight scenes, specifically the really close-ups, again, because apparently that's just like what this season is about, even in the middle of action. But I really don't have nitpicks for this section. I loved these fight sequences. I think that they looked amazing. I might be slightly swayed by the fact that I watched a lot of behind the scenes stuff of the actors showing how much they were training. And in fact, there was a video recently posted of some behind the scenes, them talking about training for fighting. And these actors put their all into learning how to bring these unique fighting styles to life. They worked so hard on this, and I feel like it paid off. Like, I enjoyed watching these fight sequences so much. And I really think that my main qualm is just in the camera work because it was so choppy, and I would have preferred if they made it more fluid. But even like, I even complained when I was watching the trailers about the ropes magic side of it, about the fact that Sanji will come out of nowhere, kick someone into the water, and then just hard stop because you've reached the end of your line, and then drop down and put your hands in your pockets. And it just, in isolation, I had so many qualms with it, but watching it all together, maybe just because I was caught up in the hype, I loved it. And the banter along with it all, like when Sanji kicks that guy into the water and Zoro's like, I had that one. And Sanji said, if you had him, then I wouldn't have got him. I love it. I love it so much. I think the confrontation with Arlong went really well as well. Arlong is a phenomenal actor. The actor who played Arlong is a phenomenal actor. Again, he acts through his prosthetics. Those prosthetics are not a hindrance for him. His performance is strong, his voice is incredible, and the way he delivers certain lines like, I'm just getting started, and I'm just playing by human rules. The way he delivers those lines, oh my goodness, I don't think we could have gotten a better person to play Arlong. I think that Jacob does an amazing job with Usopp, and he did really well with him in the sequence against Chu as well. And again, by the time we got to this fight sequence between Usopp and Chu, I actually thought Chu looked amazing, and I like their dynamic a lot. If you'll allow me another nitpick though, I like that they added in that Usopp faked his death or, you know, badly injured with the ketchup, and then stood up and continued fighting. But in the manga, he lays there trying to decide what lie he's gonna go with, because that's Usopp. He tells lies. He makes up stories to make himself seem grander than he is. And he's taken the coward's way out. He's faked his death or grievous injuries. And now he's laying there thinking, I'm so glad I got away with it. What lie should I tell? Should I say this? Should I say, you know, whatever? And he's going through them and he's getting worked up and realizing, I can't do this. I have to try. I have to give my all. And that's a huge part of Usopp's character, is that he wants to be a brave warrior of the sea, but he's naturally terrified of everything. And so his moments of bravery come from a place of choosing bravery, because he's not naturally very strong, and he's not naturally a skilled fighter. He's not naturally brave. So his bravery comes as a choice. And we just kind of skipped over that choice. Like, he's lying there with the ketchup, he got away, and then all of a sudden he's standing up and he's like, hey! And he's shouting at Chu. So it's not even a stealth move. It's not even like, okay, you use the ketchup and then you stand up and you hit him while his back is turned. Like, they didn't even take advantage of doing it that way. He just shouted at Chu, declared his plan, and then started fighting again. So like, he didn't even use the element of surprise that he potentially, you know, gained in that moment. So we kind of lost the impact we lost the characterization that scene was for Usopp. And I think that they're developing the characters of Luffy, Nami, Sanji, and Zoro well in this live action, in this very condensed amount of time that they have to tell the story. I think they're doing a good job with them, but I feel like Usopp is really getting the short end of the stick with characterization. Like, there's so many great Usopp moments that are kind of getting brushed over, and that makes me sad. And then we get to the Luffy Arlong fight. So again, so much condensing here. We obviously didn't do the stretchy neck out of the water. He's been encased in the ground and now thrown into the water, and Sanji and Zoro are trying to fight in time to be able to go get him, but they can't, because if they're in the water, then they'll be attacked. And then you've got Nojiko and Genzo who go in and keep Luffy alive until Sanji can come and break the rock, and Sanji has his underwater fight, and like, none of that. Which I understand, again, budgeting, time, so many reasons why they couldn't do, time. We had all the time in the world. We just gave it all to Garp. Anyway, there's a lot of reasons why they had to scale down the amount of fighting that they gave us. And instead, Luffy couldn't punch through the tough fishman skin, so he had to find a clever way around it. He had to get Arlong to fight through the pillars. So in this way, I really had to remove myself as a manga reader, take all my expectations away, and just watch it for what it was. And for what it was, I think that it worked fine. Luffy not being able to defeat Arlong by might alone, and instead having to come up with a creative way to get Arlong to break those pillars himself and to bring it all crumbling down. Luffy is a fresh pirate. He has not had a lot of experience, so I'm not too fussed about this kind of thing happening at the beginning, and I think that it played out well. Do I like the manga version better? Obviously, but I'm not real mad about this. And I think that the building coming down, crumbling down, looked awesome. I loved the shots of the crew just mourning and just shocked at, like, we lost him. It's over. We lost Luffy. And then him coming out of the rubble to declare Nami as their friend, as a member of their crew. Like, they came here to get her. They got her. Oh, I love it. Very much its own separate ending to Arlong Park, but I still have my manga version, so I can appreciate this one for what it is. Then we have the party, where Sanji once again flirts with Nojiko and is immediately turned down. And I do really love how Sanji takes rejection with such good nature. I don't remember what she says to him, but it's something along the lines of, come on, and just walks away, and he just laughs. Like, he's like, hey, I don't care. And it's just fun for me. And then Zoro coming for seconds, and Sanji immediately starts leaning into their little banter again. Oh, you like it. You gotta admit it. You love it. Zoro's like, no, I just need to keep up my strength. Having to save your ass all the time. And Sanji's like, no, you know what? I had to save your ass. I love that, just like, banter between them. That back and forth is beautiful to me. And then we have Luffy Garp. So I've been kind of on the fence with the Garp situation. I'm fine with them pulling Garp into East Blue to fill some of the patchwork, and I've been fine with a lot of the changes that they made, though I do think that Garp and his storyline have taken up far too much screen time when we have so much to be covering with the Straw Hats. Giving the Marines all this screen time has been deeply unfortunate to me, and Garp has been severely nerfed in order to make him fit into East Blue. They finally gave us an explanation for that. He wasn't really trying. He was testing Luffy. Gotta make sure that he really believes in his dreams, that he's not gonna give up. Go fight. Go fight to be the king of the pirates, boy. I mean, I guess you could say it's just like out of love. Like, it doesn't matter if you're not following the path I want. I still want you to survive this quest. So I'm just, just playing on a little bit of pressure. Make sure you can sustain it, I guess. But then also, Garp really doesn't look like a very strong leader with all of this either, because I think just because they wanted to put such a spotlight on Kobe. So Kobe is constantly insubordinate, especially in these last 2 episodes where he's speaking out of turn all the time. Like, Garp is sitting down having a meeting with someone and Kobe's like, what was that? What did you say? What? I have an opinion about that. Like, he's constantly he's a cadet and he's constantly inserting himself, and Garp's never like smacking him down and be like, back in your position, cadet. And again, I've said it several times before, I'll say it again, he got too much screen time. There's so much to do in this world, and instead we just hung out with Garp for so much time. That said, I do like that Luffy came off the high of defeating Arlong, and then Garp shows up and immediately humbles him. So immediately shows that I was holding back. I am stronger than you, kid. I can do more than you. And then also warning him, just because you've had this one accomplishment, you have no idea what's waiting for you on the Grand Line. You have no idea how strong people are. I like that message. I think that's really good for the show, for showing that Luffy is nowhere near the ceiling. So it immediately humbles him and also humbles the viewer to be like, whoa, all right, we've got a lot of big opponents coming. And to show that there's a lot more growth that needs to come. And I think that the vision of that is great. A speed run of the final moments of the season. The gravesite with Nojiko, I loved. Kobe being the one to deliver the bounty poster, again, full circle, bringing us back to that moment of Luffy wanting his bounty poster and then Kobe telling him, I got it for you. Like, it's here. You've been given a bounty, and that hug, that excitement. I loved that. And showing, like, yes, we are on different sides. Yes, we have different paths, but there's still this mutual respect and friendship between them that I think is wonderful. And those lines, be a good Marine, be a good pirate. Oh, I love, again, the full circle, just back to that conversation they had in the boat. Love. The crew banter with Usopp being super excited for being famous because he's in Luffy's wanted poster, and then they realize this is gonna make it a lot harder because now people are after us. Now all the bounty hunters are gonna wanna take us in, and the other Marines are gonna be looking for us, and like all this stuff, and then Usopp's like, oh no. All of the reactions that we got to see of people seeing the wanted poster and being happy for their crew, and like Zeph hanging it on the wall. I loved that one. And a nice little Easter egg for us fans, Smoker! A promise that Smoker is in fact in this series, at least I hope that's what that was, is a great ending, as well as for the new viewers seeing, oh, uh-oh, someone's after Luffy. So, was this live action perfect? No, obviously not, come on. But I am so positive on this. I loved this adaptation. I have my negatives, I have things that didn't work for me, or my nitpicks, things that I would personally move or shift a little bit, and some things that I just were a total miss for me, but I loved watching this so much. It was a delight to see one of my all-time favorite series get a whole new format and to see what they would do with it. And to see these characters that I know and love take a new form and to see a new interpretation of them. I'm genuinely so sad that I don't have more episodes to watch. The season was too short. I wish it were at least 10 episodes. I think that a lot of the issues that I have, a lot of the things that I felt were a little bit rushed or that I would have liked a little bit more from, or maybe even just fleshing out the world and side characters a little bit more, could have happened if we had gotten a few more episodes. But again, that's not the showrunner's fault. And I'm so sad that I have to wait so long for a potential season 2 because I want more. Now, Alabasta is going to be a lot harder to adapt because we're going to have a lot more locations that are either going to be condensed, cut, or are going to feel like a speed run because there's so much to cover. And then they really condense the Arlong versus Luffy stuff, like extremely condensed. So what does that mean for the Alabasta War? What does that mean for the final arc of Alabasta? What'll that look like if they have to do that much condensing again? So I don't think that this was perfect. I don't anticipate the next season being perfect if we get another season. I hope we do. But I loved this season and I'm really looking forward to more. I hope you enjoyed these discussions. I have enjoyed seeing what y'all think about these episodes, and I have loved getting to talk about them with you. So, I post videos every Monday and Friday on this channel. Tuesdays and Thursdays on the review channel, which is always linked in the description. I do live reactions and discussions and all that kind of stuff on my Patreon, always linked in the description. If you found me through these live action discussions, feel free to stick around because I post One Piece content every Monday, so there's always a video. There have been a lot of live action discussions being posted since the show was released, so thanks for hanging out with me for mine. I'll see you again soon. Bye.